Hey everybody, welcome to Beyond the Trailhead. Today we have an awesome company and guest with us today. His name's Tim, and Tim is with SlingFin, and they make tents and a bunch of other amazing outdoor gear and essential kind of things that you're probably gonna want while you're out on the trail. And then Tim, you're, where are you again? You're out in New Mexico?
I'm in New Mexico, yeah, I'm in Albuquerque.
Okay, awesome. So Tim, just go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, your background, how you became a part of SlingFin maybe, and you know, kind of what SlingFin is. Boom, all that stuff.
Totally. All right. Yeah, so SlingFin's been around since 2010, 2011 or so. I hopped in towards the end of 2016, so a couple years after they started, and I've been with them since then.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're based in Berkeley, actually. The rest of the crew, there's only 3 of us, but the other 2 guys are in Berkeley, California. Yeah, I do a lot of the remote friendly work from here in Albuquerque. Yeah, I wasn't planning on going into the outdoor industry originally. I was pre-med actually in college. I'm double majored in French and neuroscience. So my original plan was to, do the pre-med thing. I was going to graduate and then hike the Pacific Crest Trail. And then I was going to take the MCAT and go to med school. And so I hiked the PCT and had an absolutely wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I went southbound. So I started sort of end of May, which is too early for the record. No, I guess I started mid-June, which is still too early for the record for people considering a SOBA through hike, and finished in mid-November. I had such a good time that I was like, well, maybe I'll do one more through hike and then I'll go to med school. So I started the AT, the Appalachian Trail, the following February. And then somewhere in, I guess it was Pennsylvania-ish, I was talking to a couple that I met in one of the lean-tos on the AT, and it had been a crazy day. It was thunderstorming, and I was like running down the trail. It was just one of those days when you really feel vital and alive and just, in tune with everything. And I was talking to this couple and I was asking about what they did, and they were migratory bird researchers. So their job was just to travel up and down the Americas, studying these flocks of birds over the course of their migration. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me where I was like, everything is a job.
Yeah.
That like there's so many possibilities that I'd never entertained because I'd been thinking about med school since high school and, was doing biology and, so I hadn't given myself the time to explore other possibilities. And, so then I was like, well, maybe I just don't want to go to med school. Maybe that's what, maybe that's what this is, what this thing that I'm feeling is.
What did your parents say? Were they?
They were fine with it.
They were fine with it?
No,
Okay.
I give them credit for not pressuring me into anything. I mean, they were not at all rooting for me one way or the other to go to med school or not go to med school. They just, wanted me to follow my passion and gave me space to do that. So lots of credit to them and their patience.
I don't know if I do that for my kids.
They find their way eventually, as long as I think they had faith in me that I wasn't going to let myself flame out or anything, and they knew that I had a lot of intrinsic motivation and drive to be excellent at something. And so they took me a while to figure out what that was going to be, but I got there eventually. I finished the AT, I got home, worked at REI for a while, and then was trying to, I wanted to be more on the design and product creation side of things rather than the retail side. And I eventually got linked up with the SlingFin folks through the dad of a high school friend who he and his wife, my friend's parents, they worked at North Face back in the 70s, 80s,
Oh,
back when it
wow.
was still in Berkeley. And my friend's mom actually hired Martin, SlingFin's founder,
Yeah.
at North Face around that era.
Oh,
So yeah, so he'd worked with them for a while, and then I asked my friend's dad, like, if I wanted to work at SlingFin, like how should I go about that? And he said, well, they need help, but they're never going to ask for it. So, and they're not hiring. So you should just show up at their studio uninvited and unannounced and tell them to give you something to do. So that's what I did. I showed up at the office and said, I'm Tim. I want a job. And they were like, okay, like make this thing, or, we need to do this thing. So I started coming in 1 day a week, and then 3, and then I started getting paid, and then 5, and then now I'm a part owner.
wow.
So
That's
it
crazy.
kind of just snowballed from there. And yeah, that's how a lot of people, at least in the earlier days of the outdoor industry, that's how a lot of people got into it.
Yeah.
They actually, funny aside, you can edit this out if it's too long.
No,
But
you're good.
my friend's dad got his start at the North Face back in the 70s, early days. He went into the factory, because the factory used to be in Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
On Gilman Street. And he walked into the factory 3 different times. He said, I want a job here. Give me a job here. And they said, nope. And then he walked in again. They said, nope. And the 3rd time he walked in, and they gave him a lighter for, trimming loose threads on the clothes that came off the production line. And they gave him a broom for sweeping the factory. And they said, make sure you're using one of these at all times. And then he worked his way up eventually to VP of equipment design.
Wow.
So that's kind of how things used to happen. And SlingFin is pretty old school in a lot of ways, in the way we approach business and the way we approach design and work-life balance. So there's still a lot of those cottage manufacturers, a lot of those small businesses still function like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's so. For when I started getting into the outdoor industry, that's maybe I'm just old then, and I'm thinking the old school way. But that's what I did. I was like, okay, I don't know how to get on these people's radar. So I was just like, I'm going to start bugging people, in a nice way. I'm going to just call people. And trade shows were great just because it was easier to put a face to a name. And then they go, oh, he's not some slimy sales guy or whatever. He's a real human being who, and would go out for coffee or drinks after a trade show. And the next thing you know, I'm shooting their products because they're like, oh, you're a normal dude. You're not like some guy who just wants money. He actually loves what he does and stuff like that. That's crazy how I love stories like that. And that's, so how long have you been at SlingFin then? And how long have you been part owner? How long were you at SlingFin and then became part owner?
So I've been at SlingFin almost 9 years now. Closing in on 9 years. And I mean, in the early days, I mean, I guess it depends what you consider to be part owner, but in the early days, we couldn't pay ourselves a reasonable wage. So pretty much right off the bat, I was getting sweat equity. And so that just sort of accumulated over the course of the next almost decade.
Okay. And so let everybody kind of know kind of the products that you guys kind of specialize in. Because I know I looked at your tents, right?
Yeah.
And because I shoot a lot of ultralight gear. And I know when I had first heard about y'all, it was there's an ultralight tent that you have that's actually I'm pretty sure it's a 4-season tent. It's pretty light considering, like, because I have ultralight trekking pole tents, but then I also have like a Nemo Dagger and stuff like that that is light, but then it's 3-season. But then I look at y'all's and I think it was like maybe the 2P was, I'm going to say it was like 3 pounds, 6 ounces or 15 ounces or something like that, or?
Yeah. So right now we just specialize in tents.
Okay.
So we have a couple side projects that we're playing with, but I don't know if they're eventually if they're going to make it to market or not.
Yeah.
But right now, tents are what we do best, and so that's basically our whole product line now. And yeah, we basically specialize. I guess to back up a little bit, some context for why we make the products that we make. So SlingFin started when our founder Martin, he was one of the co-founders of Mountain Hardwear. So after he left North Face, he went to Sierra Designs, with a bunch of folks. The Sierra Designs folks gave an ultimatum to the business people, the VCs and the folks who had bought most of the company, and they wanted to buy the company back from them and take it back under employee ownership and sort of run things how they had been running, that in the way that had gotten them, because Sierra Designs used to be like, they were the absolute top echelon of outdoor equipment. They made it all in Berkeley. Their bags were beautiful. I mean, they were like the creme de la creme of outdoor equipment, and so they felt like the investors had taken it in a more commodity direction and wanted to sort of reclaim that identity. So they gave them an ultimatum. They refused, and they quit en masse. And after a few months of percolating and throwing ideas around, they went and started Mountain Hardwear. So that was the genesis of Mountain Hardwear.
Okay.
And Martin was one of those folks who was there in the early days, and things were great. And then eventually they, just through the way the investments and equity and everything worked out, they had to sell the company to give their investors a return. And so they got acquired by Columbia. Basically after that happened, Martin stuck around for a few years, and eventually, things were, as is, the classic story when a small technical company gets acquired by a much larger lifestyle company. Things were not going exactly the direction he wanted, and because he's really a design guy. He thinks about quality. He thinks about the nitty gritty of the way things are made, and really cares about the fabrics and the design and what tents are designed to be used for. And he was just losing a lot of agency over his designs. And there was more and more input from the marketing department and the ops department. And, his fabric selection was being determined by what was, what had the easiest and most direct supply chain, instead of what fabric was actually best for any given application. So eventually he left, and a couple years later started SlingFin. And so he wanted to do things differently with SlingFin after, being at North Face and Sierra Designs and Mountain Hardwear and having a similar experience with the brand sort of losing its technical identity. He wanted to make sure that it was a bootstrapped, employee-owned company, no VCs involved, and like build a company that was basically design focused, product focused, and still would give him the opportunity and give the employees the opportunity to spend a lot of time outside.
So where does the name come from?
SlingFin, it's he liked the sound of the word, and he wasn't really sure the direction he was going to take it at that time. So he wanted a name that evoked equipment that would work well in both like water and on land. So sling, like a climbing sling for, the alpine background, and then fin, like a surfboard or fish. I mean, ironically, we don't make anything for water, but he's a big rafter. He's a big rafter. I love, running rivers, and
Yeah.
so that's kind of part of the outdoor heritage.
Yeah.
But what he did most at Mountain Hardware with his equipment design or with tents was what he was most known for were his expedition designs.
Okay.
So there was giant geodesic domes, base camp tents like the Trango. Those were tents that he designed while he was at Mountain Hardware.
Oh, wow.
And so when he started SlingFin, the core of our identity was expedition, high altitude expedition tents.
Yeah.
So tents that were designed to be the last tents standing in any given context.
Yeah.
Yeah, really technical high-end alpine tents was sort of the genesis of SlingFin. So we started with some bigger domes, geodesics, and then sort of expanded outward from there.
Yeah.
So that DNA is kind of in everything we do, in terms of incorporating features and functionality into our tents and selecting materials to make sure our tents are stronger for any given weight than other tents in their class. So, not all the tents we make are 4-season tents, but in the case of our 3-season tents and 3+ season tents, we try to make sure that they are high performing in adverse conditions for the weight.
Yeah.
So I think the tent that you were referencing is our portal, which is it's a 2-person freestanding backpacking tent, and it's kind of a 3+ season tent because it still has a mesh inner, but we added a lot of features on it that the user can take advantage of to maximize its strength. So you can use your trekking poles to stabilize the ends of the cross pole on the tent, which adds a lot of resistance to wind and snow loading. We put a ton of guy points on it, so there's like a dozen tie outs on the tent. We use internal guy lines, which are sort of a passive stabilization system for lateral winds that are set up on the inside of the tent. So the idea behind all of these features and a lot of the features that we design are to increase the strength of the tent for a minimum weight penalty. So our portal is strong for a backpacking tent, and you also have the option of getting a heavier duty pole set for it, which in terms of snow loading and wind definitely brings it into 4-season tent territory. Obviously it's still got a mesh inner, so that, but the it's not going to outperform a 6-pound mountaineering tent, but it's going to outperform all the other 3 to 4 pound backpacking tents out there.
I was just I was just in Utah at Outdoor Retailer a few months ago, and afterwards I went ahead and hiked up. Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of it. Anyways, like Deborah Mountain or something like that. I can't remember. But when I was up there, I had crazy winds, and I had to set up on the ridge of near the top of the mountain, just so that way I could have a great photo shoot location. And then I had a backup location that I was going to hike down, and then I was going to be in some tree cover, and I was going to be okay. But then all these other backpackers came up and took all the backup spots. And by the time I was shooting the pictures, the wind was howling. Like it was, 30, 40 mile an hour winds. And I was like, there's no way I'm tearing this tent down now, because it's just going to blow away on me. And so I'm in the tent, like taking my trekking pole, trying to jam it up under that not the ridge pole, but the other one that goes up on my tent, going, okay, I can use this somehow, but I'm trying to tie it. I'm trying to, and the whole thing is just caving in, and I'm going, oh my gosh, something's gonna snap. I'm gonna be stuck up here, because we had a freak snowstorm come through. It was like, I don't know, June, end of June. And I wasn't prepared for all that. I knew it was gonna be cold, and I was gonna be like not very happy while I was sleeping, but I was just worried I wasn't going to be able to sleep anywhere, and I was going to have to go and ask somebody to go in their tent.
Right. Yeah.
But so I'm gonna be a little controversial, because I didn't realize that you had the ability to put your trekking poles there, and I can cut this out if you'd like, but I know that, and Dan's a nice guy, but I know that Dan Durston has his tent, and he's like, oh, their new X-Mid, I think is what it is. It has that, but it seems like you guys had
X-Dome.
The X-Dome, yeah. It seems like you guys had that first then. So
yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, that's fine. You know, it's honestly, I'm surprised more folks haven't used that as well. And it's a great design, and it's, you know, not specific enough to patent. And you know, I really respect Dan as a designer. So, you know, if someone's going to use it, it's, you know, highest compliment coming from Dan.
And
it works well. I mean, it's a really effective system.
My mother-in-law, she owned a cleaners and a alterations place for years, right? So my wife's Korean and my mother-in-law is Korean. So so I almost, after that trip, and then seeing the tents with those pockets for me to put it in, I was like, man, maybe I should ask her to retrofit my tent somehow, so I don't have to spend money on another tent. Because I'm like, man, I sure wish I had the ability to put my trekking poles on for that. So I mean, that's a really cool design, and I mean, I love designs like that. I'm not a huge crazy alpine guy, and I mean, I go to all kinds of cool mountains and stuff, but I'm not crazy Four Seasons, go rock climbing and climb Everest and all these other things kind of thing. I have so much respect for those guys that go hang out in those tents for days, acclimatizing and going climbing and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, your designs and the color scheme and stuff, again, this is the marketing brain kind of side of me. I just love good looking tents instead of really crapping looking tents, especially when they have materials that, from a photography standpoint, I can't take good pictures in, because their materials are all like crazy colors that cast this really bad color.
Oh, interesting.
On the inside.
I didn't even think about that.
That's my number one thing I don't like when I first started camping and backpacking a little bit more. I have other trekking pole tents, but I needed some sort of semi-freestanding tent, so I got a Nemo Dagger, and I love it, but it's a green fly and everything else. So when I shoot anything in it, everything in it has this ugly green cast. And so I'm like, I need a nice neutral fly or something that's, you know, even if it's green, if it's not like this deathly green, like kind of thing. So
I've been in tents like that, and you kind of look like Shrek when you're inside it. And I feel like when I'm inside, if I'm stuck in my tent during a storm, you know, I want it to feel like a nice, cozy, warm spot. And so a lot of our 3-season tents, we've got this nice kind of neutral gray color for the fly sheet, because you know, you don't want to feel like you're in a cave when you're hunkered down. I mean, we do a darker green color in our Portal series, just for folks who want to blend in with the surroundings, and that's like a very, you know, dark green. And actually, I've been quite surprised by how popular those are. But our standard gray and orange colorway is significantly more popular.
Well, I even looked at that dark green color, because that dark green color is actually, you can photograph that really, really well. But when it's so I looked at it and I was like, oh, that you can actually, it won't give a crazy tint to. Versus, and I don't know how to explain it, but like that dark green, anytime it's like a, I don't know, that color heather gray is like a, I know through the wedding industry, everybody had heather gray for a long time for their bridesmaids dresses, right?
Okay.
But you could get heather pink or whatever, and it's, I don't know, it's like that type of tone. It could be any color, and you could photograph it really, really well, and it wouldn't do a crazy tint. So, I'm just thinking, I'm always thinking photographs going, oh, this is going to be really hard to photograph because the colors are evil, you know?
All
right, I'm gonna ask you a couple quick questions, and if you need some time to kind of think through it and stuff like that, let me know and I can kind of come back to it. But I always like to ask people, you know, maybe let's start with a oh crap moment first, right? Like,
okay.
And then we'll go with a big win moment. Okay. So go ahead and tell me if you can think of one, like what's a big oh crap moment, something that happened that was like, dang, this is putting us back or whatever.
Oh yeah, I got a good one. Yeah.
Okay, good.
So we had a shipment come in. This was a couple of years ago now. I want to say it was like fall of 20. What year is it now? 25. So fall of 22, I think.
Yeah.
We'd ordered a big run of tents from the factory, a bunch of portals, and then a bunch of bigger domes, a bunch of 4-season tents.
Yeah.
And you know, they shipped sea freight from the factory in Vietnam, and they go into LA, and then they get trucked up Interstate 5 up to Oakland, and then they get delivered to us in Berkeley. So our shipment was late. We hadn't really heard anything from the freight company, and we kept reaching out to them, and we're like, hey, you know, any updates on our shipment? We got some stuff we kind of need in there, and we have some tents that people have pre-ordered, and they're waiting for their tents, and didn't hear anything back. And then about a week later, the last mile delivery guy comes in with his box truck into our parking lot, and he was like, well, something happened with your shipment. And Rich went out to receive the shipment. He said, you know, what's going on? And the guy's like, well, I don't know for sure, but it looks like maybe there was a fire. And he opened up the back of this box truck, and there was just this blob of charred, melted nylon on this pallet. I mean, it was just like, it just gotten completely torched.
Yeah.
And there was corn everywhere too. They were like, I guess had shipped with some like corn snacks, and the packages had all broken, and there was you know, corn kernels everywhere, and just this, like, you know, it wasn't smoldering or anything anymore, but it was just this blackened chunk of nylon. And we had a lot of tents in that shipment, and you know, not a lot, most of it was singed. Some of it was completely destroyed, but the stuff that was packed in the very center of the pallet was okay. But we called our freight company, and we called the factory, and you know, we had assumed that when we contracted out that they insured the shipments that they did, but they told us that we were responsible for telling them to insure the shipment. So that was a pretty tough lesson for us. And the real kicker was that to insure the whole value of that shipment, which was, I think, probably well over $100,000, maybe closer to it would have been $125 to insure the full value of the shipment. So that was a real. I mean, we got that, and we were like, I don't know what we're gonna do. I mean, it was a huge loss of inventory. It was a lot of stuff that we needed. Fortunately, the big domes that had been pre-ordered were we had one of them had gotten destroyed, but we had just enough that were intact to fulfill the rest of the pre-orders. And
how did the fire start?
So we don't know. They would not tell us, but basically the theory that we have is that the truck, the semi truck that was going up I-5 got in an accident or caught fire or something somewhere between LA and Oakland, and the contents just burned up. But I think, you know, they didn't want to risk any liability on their end, so they wouldn't tell us, and we couldn't get anywhere with them. And so now we pay the extra $125 to insure our sea shipments. So that was a bummer, and it took a really long time to come back from. But
Yeah. Did the manufacturer on that, so you guys had to foot the bill then for that, or man, dang.
Yeah.
Oh, that really sucks.
It was a bummer. Yeah, because I mean, the factory had just they'd shipped it like we had requested, and we and they'd already made all the tents and bought the stuff, and our relationship with our factory is like one of our most important, maybe our most important asset. So so we're not going to go after them for that, but so that's that set us back a while. Yeah.
Jeez, and that was recent too.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we went on to Debbie Downer. Then maybe we can come up on something. So then tell me, like, what would be a big win or a big moment for you guys as a company?
Let's see. I mean, I think probably when we introduced our Portal series, I think, the Portal is our 2-person freestanding 2-door 2-vestibule backpacking tent.
Yeah.
And I kind of lovingly call it the mid-size family sedan of tents, because it's really a good fit for a lot of people, and is an appropriate choice for most of the use cases. And I think one of the things that we struggled with early on at SlingFin was product market fit. So, I mean, early on, I mean, the alpine tents that we made were super functional and beautiful and really popular with the people who use them. But the problem is, the demographic of people who need a 12-person Everest Base Camp dome is very small. It's a very small market, and even our smaller tents that we had introduced since the domes were still very technical 4-season alpine tents.
Yeah.
And so they were all very niche. And I think when we started to introduce tents into the lighter weight backpacking world, or at least started pivoting in that direction, I think we drew a little too heavily on our alpine heritage and made tents that were stronger than they needed to be, heavier than they needed to be, more durable fabrics and zippers than people were wanting or expecting. And I think with Portal, that's when things really started to click for us. That's when we really nailed the product market fit. We got it in the weight we needed to be, while still integrating a lot of those features that we had developed for our expedition tents. We applied a lot of the fabric knowledge, the fabric and coating knowledge that we had learned with our bigger tents, and trickled that down into the fabric choices and the zipper, the materials choices and the construction choices, the sewing techniques. And so that tent for us was just when everything kind of coalesced, and we figured out a way to address what people who were buying tents wanted, while still giving it our own spin, giving it the quality and the functionality that we'd become known for in the sort of expeditionary climbing world.
Yeah. No, that's cool to be able to realize that and kind of not pivot necessarily, but know, like, you guys have the expertise to create other things, and spread the market. I think I was at I don't know, it was like a little talk at one of the conferences, and they were talking about, like, I think the core people are like 5 or 10% of the actual people, right? And then the rest of the people, it's 40% like super casual people, and then the other 40% is the kind of that middle ground. And you still want to have the core stuff that people, even if people are never going to get to that core level, they're still going to aspire to do that stuff. So you almost have to have stuff like that, so people go, I want to be that guy on K2, when they're just going to go down to the park down the street and go for a car camping night or something
Yeah.
like that. Or, like me, I'm going to go to Mount Whitney, but I'm definitely not going to, I'm not going to
Yeah.
Nepal or something like that,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think maintaining that those products for your core audience is really important. And I think that's a really interesting thing to look at in terms of other brands and how other brands sort of broadcast their identity.
Yeah.
Like, and especially in terms of, product brands that have grown and
Yeah.
gained some mainstream appeal and the directions they've gone, I think a good contrast is like Patagonia,
Yeah.
versus like North Face, for instance,
Yeah.
or Arc'teryx versus North Face. Patagonia and Arc'teryx have reached this, broad appeal with everyday consumers and lifestyle folks, but they still are innovating at a very high level on technical alpine focused products, even
Yeah.
though I guarantee that's not where the vast majority of their income is coming from. They're I bet Patagonia makes more money, I bet, off of their better sweater than they do off of their one piece Gore-Tex alpine suit.
Yeah.
But they and same with Arc'teryx. I bet they're selling a bunch of Atom hoodies more than, say, the Alpha SV shell, right? But maintaining that connection to their core demographic is what keeps the brand relevant. Whereas North Face, not to throw any shade on them, like they have sort of lost that connection with that alpine climbing, technical alpine climbing demographic that got them to where they are. And from a business perspective, they've been wildly successful. I mean, they're making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
But I don't see any North Face gear when I'm on a thru hike. I don't see PCT hikers in their gear. When I'm backcountry skiing and I'm on a multi-day ski traverse, like my friends aren't using their gear. They've sort of lost touch with that core technical audience. I think for us, no matter what happens, our core bread and butter demographic is always going to be people doing lightweight alpine pursuits up through those expeditionary style climbers. And I mean, not only is that like what our brand identity revolves around and what keeps us, helps keep our image authentic and legit. But honestly, like, I think those tents are a lot more fun to design. I think those tents are more exciting and more interesting because when you've got when you're designing a 2-person backpacking tent and you've got a hard cap at a 3-pound minimum weight, there's only so much you can do in that weight range in terms of adding features or functionality or doing things that are a little out of the box. You get a lot more limited in your design scope. But for a prime example of this is our Wind Saber tent. That's our super strong lightweight alpine tent. It's the minimum weight's about 5 pounds. It's probably the strongest 2-person freestanding 5-pound tent in the world. I haven't found one that I think comes close to it. And when people are doing those really lightweight but extreme trips, they expect their gear to weigh a little bit more. They know that they're not going to get by with a shaped tarp if they're going out for a 2-week traverse in Denali in winter. It's just not realistic. And so you have more weight to play with, and you can get a little more creative. You can do some more interesting things with that. So with the Wind Saber, we added that extra that extra head pole, and we added, we use our web truss, which is this system that Martin designed in the early days of SlingFin that really increases, it helps stabilize the pole structure.
Yeah.
It adds a little bit of weight, but it raises the strength of the tent proportionally much more
Yeah.
compared to the weight that it adds. And, we can use zippers that are a little bit more durable, that, stuff that we appreciate as designers,
Yeah.
that we wouldn't be able to do simply from a weight perspective on a lightweight or a 3-season backpacking tent.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I feel
So
like
I-
those 3-season tents, there's only so much weight you can cut, right? I mean, you only cut so much weight before, not that like it's definitely a lot harder, I would think, to innovate a 3-season 2-person tent, right? Versus that, when you have that, I never thought about that with the weight limit. You do have that ability to really kind of think more out of the box.
Absolutely.
And to some degree, because I've had tents, the zipper fail because, it's a lighter zipper, but then it's some weird shape now that's getting pulled in weird directions, and next thing you know, it splits on me, and I'm like, what do I do? Right?
Yeah.
And so I wish it was a bigger zipper, it would have been like an extra, I don't know, half an ounce, right? But I would have now been, no mosquitoes would be ripping me apart because I would have the door closed on the thing.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that consumers don't really realize when they're shopping for a tent. I think that there are a couple areas where there are some high value weight adds to a tent that I think are worth it, even as an ultralight backpacker, as someone who replaces the drawstrings with ultralight Dyneema cord, in my stuff sacks. And like, I cut the tags off. I do the whole thing. There are a couple areas where I would certainly take a weight penalty, and zippers are one of them. But, that's, if we made the zippers on our portal, most of them, they're number 3s. If we made them number 5s, they would last longer, but people wouldn't buy the tent because it was too heavy. So, what we do on our ultralight tents, when actually we do this on all of our tents, but it's especially useful on our lightweight tents where we use number 3 zippers, is we add a couple of spare zipper sliders, and they're pre-installed onto the zipper when the factory makes the tent.
Okay.
So what people don't really realize is, this is just a little tangent here, but it's actually the zipper slider that wears out. It's not the zipper itself, but it's the slider that joins the sides of the zipper. That the coating, the metal coating on that starts to wear down, so it gets just a little bit bigger, and it doesn't join the sides of the zipper. So if it's gritty or wet, you get all that sand and dust in there, and eventually it wears that coating off. So your zipper is still fine. The zipper does not need to be replaced. It's just those sliders that are causing the problem. So we pre-install extra ones on all of our zippers. So when your zipper sliders wear out, you just slide them to the end of the zipper, forget about them, or you take a little like tin snips or a little pliers and you just pull them off, and then you just slide out the new ones from the top there, and you're good to go. So
that's cool.
And so that's an example of something, that we saw zippers failing on every other tent, and we thought, how can we improve this problem without adding so much weight that it puts our tent out of contention. So zippers are one thing, and there are just like a couple little areas like that that I think are high value.
That's cool. No, I love the fact that you guys do that. I never would even thought about, I would have been like, I'm just gonna let them throw the tent out and then, or send it all the way back and have to repair it or whatever. And I know zippers, just from talking to my mother-in-law, they're not easy to repair.
They're a pain in the neck. I mean, they're just such a nuisance to replace. They take forever. And and even putting new zipper sliders on once the tent is already made is a pain, because you've got to, rip the end of the zipper out and then put them on. And so it's tough. But one thing that we like to say, sort of a mantra we have, is that there's no magic in tent design. And this is another thing that I think is really important for people to realize when they're shopping for a tent, is that every design decision when you're making a tent is a compromise. Everything fundamentally will have negative repercussions in some category or the other. So for that reason, there's no such thing, and there will never be such a thing as a perfect tent, because lighter fabrics essentially have lower durability than heavier fabrics, but people want lighter weight fabric. So durability and weight are opposed to each other. Often price and longevity are in opposition to each other. The fabrics what we use are a lot more expensive, but they are much more UV resistant and resistant to hydrolysis, when they kind of break down and smell terrible and they get all flaky. So we use fabrics that don't do that, silicone coated fabrics that are generally much higher performance, but they need to be seam sealed, and they can't be seam sealed at the factory because the tent has to be set up for them to dry for like 8 hours. So we do that ourselves in Berkeley, which is a pain, but we do it because the fabrics are so much better. But those fabrics are also more expensive. So it's often a weight sacrifice or durability sacrifice or cost sacrifice. There's no special sauce that anyone has that's that makes one tent magically better than another. So I think when people look at a tent, or at least especially look at the specs of a tent in particular, without seeing the tent in person or using it in the field, they'll see a 2-person tent that's freestanding and weighs 2 pounds, and they're like, wow, that's amazing, this is great. But what I think people should be asking themselves is, what am I giving up for that 2 pounds? What are the sacrifices that I know I'm going to be making to get a tent that light? Is it internal space? Is it strength? Is it ease of setup? Something has to give especially when you're getting down into these super low weights.
When I hurt myself on the Colorado Trail, I was in a decent 1-person tent that I'm glad it had decent room, because I was like, man, I was stuck in there like all day, just waiting until the next morning that I could hike the next mile out to thumb a ride into town. And I was like, man, I need space. And I was like, man, I will take carrying a few extra ounces or even a pound to have more space. And like you said, like every tent has a different use case, right? Like everybody's needs are different. Some people love to just even just cowboy camp. They don't even want a tent. They just want a tarp over themselves. And other people want that fake security of a thin wall around them, thinking that that's going to protect them from animals and stuff. Right. But then, I love that fake security.
Oh, I do too.
That false sense of security. Oh man.
If I can't see it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly. And then I was camping one time and I could hear people talking, and I was like, I don't think they realize that that's just a thin piece of plastic between us and them, and I can hear everything they're saying,
Oh yeah. When I was leading trips, most of the trips I was leading were middle schoolers and high schoolers. And you learn some very funny stuff when they think their tent walls are soundproof. That's when you really, it was a great opportunity to really learn about the actual social dynamics on the trip and how the kids are actually enjoying the experience, because they think they're just talking to each other and the trip leader's not there and the walls are soundproof. And but it's that's cool. I do appreciate that sense of that false sense of security. I just I sleep a little more securely.
I think that I wish that, like, all the stuff that you're saying is so good, and it almost sucks that like a lot of consumers, right, they just see what they see, and they don't even get to think about all those different things until it's almost too late, right? They've bought the wrong tent. I mean, I've shot and I've been in a ton of lots of different tents from a lot of different companies, and some of them I love, and then others I'm like, I can't wait for this to be over, and I just want my, I think we all have a go-to tent that we're just like,
Right.
that's my baby, and I'm gonna camp in that thing no matter what, even if I've got to take extra weight or whatever. Like
Yeah.
with Whitney, I wanted to take my trekking pole tent, but then
Hmm.
after having that experience in Utah with all that wind, I
Right.
was like, man, I don't think I want to bring my trekking pole tent up there, because what if I get some crazy high winds or something like that, and then I can't stake out my tent and everything else other than tying it to rocks. I really can't get it as secure as I would like. And then I have my
Yeah.
wife with me, so I'm also thinking, okay, for me, it'd be a great story and a funny experience. But for
Yeah.
her, she's not going to want to go on another trip with me if I totally just make it miserable for her. I have to kind of make it almost like we're at the Motel 6, at least, right? For her
Yeah.
to want to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the trade-offs is, comfort. Sometimes you want to carry a little extra weight and you get a little more comfort. And it is very hard to stake in tents in the Mount Whitney zone.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of soil there and a lot of granite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm super jealous too. When you were saying at the beginning how you've done the PCT and then you did the AT,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, like I said earlier when we were offline, but like I've done the Wonderland Trails, that's the longest one I've ever done, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. And I would love to do something longer. I actually, when I found out that I could use this overnight Whitney permit for the JMT,
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, I can use it. And I looked on the calendar and I had the time. But then I was
Mm-hmm.
like, how do I leave for 2.5 weeks? And I was like, well, it's my daughter's senior year. Maybe I'll take her out of school. And my wife was like, no, you're
Mm-hmm.
not taking her out of school because she's got all these classes. And I was like, how can we make it? So, because I'm like,
Yeah.
when am I ever going to win this Whitney permit again? Because I've entered it
But
like
second
so
semester
many times.
senior year,
You're right?
like she's gonna learn more on the trail anyway than she would in class.
Exactly. Okay, so you're going to call my wife after this and you're going to tell her how much you
It's
learned on that trail. And then, yeah.
I mean, I think I've learned so much on the trails and about myself and about just how to navigate life. I mean, there are so many
Yeah.
parallels and so many lessons to be gleaned. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible educational
Yeah.
experience. Just in terms of creativity and problem solving and resilience.
Yeah.
And, yeah, maybe it can be when your youngest kid goes to college, that can be your present to yourself.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to take my son. My oldest daughter, she loves doing like fun stuff. My
Mhm.
middle daughter, she likes doing fun stuff. It's more at the mall and buying clothes,
Okay.
right? And then my oldest, or my youngest, he's doing Fortnite and everything right now. So, but he's now running and everything else and enjoying cross country. And I'm like, finally,
Oh yeah.
like I finally got him from playing video. Like he's like literally, I think it's today or no, tomorrow after school, he's going for a run that he scheduled with his friends, and he's 12.
That's
And he's like, we're
awesome.
going to go
Oh
run
yeah.
for 4 miles. And I'm like, you're going to go run for 4 miles for fun? Like I couldn't even get you off
That's
the
awesome.
couch.
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, middle school cross country is the endurance sport gateway drug.
yes,
That's what got me started. I think that I middle school cross country, then high school, and I ran in college, and then from there I just went off the deep end. And yeah,
that's awesome.
um,
Yeah. Well, UTMB is this Friday is UTMB. And so my wife and I
yeah.
are going to be watching the stream, trying to watch the stream a little bit if we can. That's like
Cool.
for our 20th anniversary, we were going to do the Tour de Mont Blanc. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
we decided to do just something else, maybe in England or something like that, doing city stuff instead. But
Yeah.
I'll find someone to go do that with me, because she saw the elevation, was like, I don't know if I can do. I said, we'll do it the bougie way, where we'll stay in like really nice hotels.
Oh yeah, the huts are really nice. Yeah, that was one of the trails that I guided when I was leading trips.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
beautiful. Yeah. I've heard the haute route, which is Chamonix to Zermatt, I think,
Uh-huh.
is a little bit less populated and a little more alpine feeling. I mean, the TMB
Okay.
is gorgeous. It's beautiful, and you go through a bunch of great towns, and it's quite crowded. I was surprised by how many people were around because, everything is accessible as a day hike. And, but there's a reason there are so many people there because it is drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I just don't like crowded. Like when I was on the Wonderland Trail, I think I had heard it was going to be packed all the time. And I every day maybe saw 5 or 6 people. And we did it counterclockwise. So we were always passing people instead of going, everybody else does it clockwise. Okay. And that's another, I'm going to keep entering that every year to try to do that as another, because I can do that in, 7 days with my kids or, or so. So
that's on my list. I haven't done the Wonderland Trail yet, but
finally I've done something you haven't done.
Nice. Yeah. I really, I've heard so many good things about it. I did the Timberline Trail last weekend, which is really phenomenal. It's like now the Mount Hood equivalent of the Wonderland Trail. It's a lot shorter. It's only 40 miles, but it was stunning. I was really pleasantly surprised by how gorgeous it was.
Do you need a permit for that?
Yeah.
You need a permit for that one?
Not as far as I know. I did it as a 1-day run, but I think the permits for backpacking, don't quote me on this. Trust but verify. I think the overnight permits are self-serve.
Okay.
And I don't think there's a quota.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's a stunning route. But if you're looking for a secluded, more solitary wilderness experience in the Sierra, and you're looking at alternatives to the JMT, which can get pretty busy, the Sierra High Route is something that I cannot recommend highly enough. I mean, it's stunning. It's easier to get a permit for than the JMT because you can start a couple different trailheads and they're less popular than Whitney. And it's about the same length. It's 200 miles, but it's mostly off trail. So you're mostly doing route finding, and it's way, way, way harder than the JMT. I mean, it's got like 40 or 50 passes on it, a huge number of passes, and they're all very steep and rugged. But you're not on trails for most of it, so you're hardly seeing anybody, and the scenery is just, it just goes through the heart of the most spectacular part of the Sierra. I mean, every day I would pass 3 lakes where I was like, well, if there was a trail to this lake, it would be absolutely jam-packed right now, but I'm the only person here. I would give yourself longer than you would for the JMT because it's really slow going and it's pretty arduous, but it's so worth it. I mean, every day too, I would get to a lake at 10 a.m. and I was like, if I'd given myself an extra week on this trail, I would spend the rest of my day here. But that happened like 3 or 4 times a day. So, that I think is probably the most spectacular hike I've ever done.
That's probably my number 1 bucket list for trails. Okay, so I'm going to ask you one last question.
Okay.
And then I'm just going to go ahead into we do a little bit of a rapid fire round. So it's just like 10 or 11 questions and you just do 1-word answers real quick. And then we'll wrap up. So, and everything you've said is incredible. I'm learning so much. And I keep telling people every time I have them on here that I'm working on a product right now that I can't find it anywhere. And I keep trying to design it and stuff like that. And I've tried to get my daughter to like 3D print stuff at high school and stuff for it. And I'm learning more about just building a product in general. And when you think you have it, there's 20 other things that are wrong and 20 things that are right that you're solving a thing for. So I guess what advice, this kind of advice for me or for everybody, but what advice would you give to someone at the trailhead of their business that's starting their business dreams? Like do or do not, there is no try, or quote Yoda, or
I mean, Yeah.
Because like even
It's
for
a,
you,
it's
you
a,
were so persistent with everything. Like I think,
yeah.
you know, even like the owner, he was persistent on like how, getting that job at that
Mhm.
factory, and then you know you were like, okay, I'm just gonna go and do it. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, persistence is huge, and I think also just really knowing your product to start out
yeah,
with. Um, you know, if it's something that's sewn, you know, work on it, figure out how to get it made, um, on your own before you start trying to work with production partners. Um, yeah, I think having a clear story for your product, having a clear use
yeah,
case for your product is really important. And um, if it doesn't bring something new to the table, and if it doesn't fulfill a niche that people are looking for,
hmm
then you're going to get outcompeted by companies with huge marketing departments and venture
yeah,
capital backing. And you know, the for a small business, there's no way to outcompete existing companies on marketing.
hmm
um, and I mean, this is just my experience. I'm sure other
yeah,
people might
no,
feel
yeah,
differently, but for SlingFin, like, we have to outcompete on product. Like
yeah,
we're, you know, we can't market, can't spend thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on ads like Big Agnes or, you know,
yeah,
Nemo or, you know, those companies. Like the only way, you know, we don't have as loud of a megaphone to yell about our tents.
yeah,
So the only way we can compete with them is by building a better product,
yeah,
um, and trusting that um, that's going to eventually get us the foothold in the market that we need. And
yeah,
also just, you know, being brutally honest with yourself when your product doesn't fulfill that need. You know, we like, I've worked on tents that I was really excited about. You know, I had one semi-freestanding hybrid design that I thought was really cool, and I used it on the Hayduke Trail, and it worked great. You know, it was a solid tent. And then
yeah,
I got back, and I was really looking at the specs and the weight and, you know, some of the features, and ultimately we had to kill it because, you know, when I was being brutally honest, I it just wasn't filling a niche that people needed.
yeah,
And it's so, I mean, it can get so emotionally charged when something is your baby. And, you know,
yeah,
I feel so emotionally invested in SlingFin, and I feel emotionally invested in the products that I help
hmm
create. Um, and it can be really tough to admit when you need to pivot or when something's not working.
yeah,
Um, but it's also really important because then, you know, the more time you spend working on a product that doesn't have legs, that's an opportunity cost when you could be
yeah,
working on something that does fill a need that people want.
yeah. But when what you said, it was exactly what my wife and I were thinking last night when we were binge watching Shark Tank.
Okay.
Is I think my wife said that doesn't fill a need. They're not going to get a
Hmm.
deal,
Yeah.
right? And so anytime it was a product, I think it was like some basket that this lady was weaving, and it had a great
Okay.
heart to it, right? Like it was helping
Yeah.
out all these labor workers
Hmm.
in her home country and everything else. And we were like, oh, it's a great thing, and it has a great again, saying heart, but I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It had a great purpose behind it,
Yeah.
right? But in the end, it was just a basket, right? And it
Yeah.
was, there's nothing new under the sun. It's just a storage thing to store stuff in. And so
Hmm.
sure enough, she didn't get a deal. And my wife was like, yeah,
Hmm.
that's nothing new. It's not fulfilling this niche that has needed it for how long. And then the next
Right.
product on was something that it was, oh, that's what it was. It was like the college guys who help pack college dorms, and they're partnered with the school, so that all you do is you ship the boxes to the school and then to the room, you put your stuff in there, you lock the door, and then later on, a week later, they come in and move everything into storage for you in between semesters or whatever.
Oh, okay.
And then I've never been to college, and I asked my wife, I was like my wife was like, oh man, I would have loved that. And then I was like, oh, that's a need. And then they ended up getting a huge deal because all these people and all the parents and all the frustration of moving your stuff, it's like, oh, that's fulfilling a need that needed to be filled. So no, I think that's a great, that's why I keep thinking about my idea. I'm going, is this fulfilling a need that everybody has, or is this just my need that I'm just always frustrated with? And that's why I'm making this product. So every time I'm thinking about it while I'm out for a run, I'm like, no, I know people that always make fun of me for this particular product that I'm using. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to make one and then see how it goes. So yeah, thanks for that advice. I appreciate it. All right. So we're going to close up. And again, these are just rapid fire questions, so they don't have to be long answers. You can just one word it. If you don't know the answer, you can just yell skip. Okay. But you shouldn't skip. So, all right. So I usually ask the same question, but I'm gonna skip. I have another set of 10, which I think I'm gonna kind of go down to the bottom and look at. So, all right. So first question for a rapid fire round is mountains, forests, deserts, or the coast?
Mountains.
Mountains. Okay. Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
Night owl. What time do you get up on trail?
Aspiring early bird.
Yeah.
When I'm hiking, that's one of the few times, if I'm on a multi-day hike, that's one of the few times I can actually make myself get up early. But when I was on the PCT, I started hiking at like 9 a.m. every day. I got like 10 hours of sleep a night. It was awesome. But if I'm doing something really arduous now, then I'll get up. I'll make myself get up early. But day to day, I don't know, running in the summer, I know I should be running early, but I just can't make myself get up early enough to do it.
It's hard. Like I'm only forced to get up because my kids I have to leave to drop them off at 6:30 a.m. I'm up my wife's up at 6, I'm up at 6. They're up at like 5:30 getting their makeup and clothes on and stuff like that. So school starts ridiculously bad here. If not, we sleep into like 10. All right, one app you can't live without for work. So you could, I guess this could be on trail, but let's say work especially.
I'm gonna go with CalTopo. Yeah, I mean, testing tents in the field is a big part of my my job, and getting things out and beating them up and seeing how they work. And I love CalTopo for planning backcountry routes, especially off-trail routes, and just exploring the area. And so CalTopo is my
okay
app.
And then next one, first outdoor memory you can clearly remember.
Probably Death Valley with my parents when I was a kid. We went to Death Valley over spring break in, I think it was elementary school. We went to Ubi Crater, which is I think it's maybe in the northern part of the park, but I mean, it was spring and the wildflowers were blooming and it was hot, but it was blowing wind. And I just remember being so entranced by the landscape in Death Valley.
That's awesome. I want to go. I think when we go to Whitney, we're trying to go to Death Valley because we're like, hey, we're there. We might as well go to the lowest point and then the highest point. So
there's a hiking route that connects the two. It's called lowest to highest.
Really?
I've heard it's great. It's also on my bucket list. It's off trail. It's a tough route. It's like 130 something miles. I think it's I think you have to cache water, or some people cache water. But it's supposed to be really stunning.
I have so many routes on my list now.
Death Valley is spectacular though.
Awesome. What's all right, so what's the worst trail snack you've ever tried?
I dehydrated my meals for the PCT,
Uh-huh.
and I cooked them in advance and then dehydrated them and then, rehydrated
Yeah.
them on trail. But when I was I made some chili for the PCT, and I just burned the crap out of it. I mean, I was like downstairs doing something else, and I came back
Yeah.
and there was just like this puck of charred chili on the bottom of the pan. I was like,
Yeah.
it's, this is like $40 worth of chili. Like, I'm not gonna, I can't
So you
remake it.
kept
There's
it?
too much. There's like gallons of chili in here. So I scraped it off of the burnt part, and
Yeah.
I dehydrated it all. And oh my God, it was eating that for the next 5 months was every time it was chili night, I was like, oh no, this is gonna be a
Oh
struggle.
man. And usually everything
So
on trail
yeah.
tastes good, you know?
Yeah,
But
it was okay at first, but then, it just, yeah, by the end of the trip,
yeah.
couldn't choke it down.
All right. So then this leads into, what is your go-to trail snack?
Nerds gummy clusters.
Nerds gummy clusters. Those
Easy.
are so good. I had a whole bag of those at my daughter's last volleyball game.
Oh, they're so good.
And they're so good. I might get some now for the trail.
Oh yeah, they've saved me from so many bonks.
Yeah. All right. So I'll ask you two more. What's something you're still learning as a leader? A little deeper, I guess.
Let's see. I think I'm still working on figuring out how to balance and communicate each individual person's goals for any given trip with the group goal. I think an area that I'm still building is just facilitating effective group communication. And I think that's like one of the most important aspects of any group trip, and I think it's a skill that can be built throughout a whole lifetime, a whole career outdoors.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna hopefully lead my first group trip with a bunch of kids. Where I'm gonna do like a dad-son trip, and it's gonna be very simple.
Nice. Yeah.
But I was like, I've talked to so many dads that I know, and they've never been camping, and they hear about my trips, and I'm like, well, let's just go on an easy one first. And I can't wait, but I'm also dreading it a little bit, because I know no matter how easy I make it, there's going to be someone who's going to be like, this is tough,
Yeah.
So
not sandbagging my friends is another skill I'm working on. I've definitely facilitated a lot of people pushing their comfort zone and expanding their horizons, but I am sort of notorious among my friends for making people have kind of unintended spiritual life and death experiences on the trail, because they were maybe gotten a little bit deeper than they bargained for.
It's always my kids always ask me, because the last trip we went on, I said, hey, we're gonna go to Nevada Falls when we were in Yosemite, and I was like, we weren't gonna go all the way there, but I was like, the hike today is gonna be 6 miles round trip, and then by the time we looked, I think we ended up doing like 13 or 14 miles. And they were so mad at me. So now whenever I do it, I always jokingly tell them, I was looking at all trails, right? Because, all trails never gives you the accurate distance and everything else. So I'm like, well, I was looking at all trails. So, all right, last question. This is an easy one, but what's one outdoor skill you still kind of suck at?
Ooh. Cord management. Not getting my guy lines hopelessly tangled, and bundling my rope nicely. I just don't have the patience.
just throw it in the back. I just throw mine in my stuff sack. And then I'm like, when I camp, I'm like, why did I do this? But you know, in the moment, you're just like, you want to get up and get going because it's cold or raining or whatever.
Yeah.
So, well, awesome. Well, you answered those really, really well, super fast. I have so many questions. I always want to ask everybody like 50 different questions, but I mean, you crushed it today. Tim, I really appreciate you being on, and I appreciate, you know,
absolutely.
You're the owner letting you be on today and stuff like that. And I hope that everybody listening and watching has learned something today. And if you have any questions or comments, let us know in the comment section below, or email us directly. And then Tim, how can people find you all online to purchase a tent, or if they have questions, or on socials?
Yeah, so we're slingfin.com, SLINGFIN.com. We have a contact form. All the contact forms go to me, so I can answer any questions that you have. We also are on Instagram at SlingFin, and Facebook too at SlingFin, but I don't really check our Facebook very much. So yeah, the contact form on our website is best, and then Instagram is second best. But that's
awesome.
that's our website.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, and it was great having you on Beyond the Trailhead, and I look forward to chatting or seeing you on the trail and seeing the cool things you guys create over at SlingFin. So thanks so much, Tim. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're very welcome.